Welcome back. We have Scott Bacon with us today from Certified Radon Systems. Scott, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I made a comment earlier. Scott says he's got the quarantine beard going on. I think it looks good. I like it. Scott, you got quite a background. Makes you an expert in this field. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
All right. So my name is Scott Bacon. Company is Certified Radon Systems, and we specialize in installing radon mitigation systems in houses, residential buildings, both residential and commercial. And we've been doing this for, we're going into our 15th year of business doing radon. And we do a lot of it around Western New York. It's a very pronounced thing.
And don't you have a great degree for this too? You have a.
I am. So I'm certified through the NEHA and the NRPP, which is the National Environmental Health Association, and the National Radon Proficiency Program, which has adopted all the EPA standards and guidelines, or I should say the EPA kind of willed it over to them because they're not totally covering this anymore. And so the NEHA, NRPP are the ones that are in charge of all the standards and guidelines for doing radon, and the way the systems are put in, the way the testing's done. And, it's working with them it's a great way to keep things uniform, really. I mean, to make sure that it's going in properly without recycling back into the house or doing anything like that.
Awesome. Now, is there's any wonder that why we refer Scott out, right? Okay, look at the background he's got. Scott, let's get right to the questions. Basic question, right out of the gate. I have buyers asking me all the time when, especially when we get out a little bit in the country, maybe East Aurora, Elma area, where we're kind of high radon area. What is radon?
All right, well, radon, it is a byproduct, actually, of uranium that is in the soil all around Western New York. There's uranium, just traces of it. It's not much. It's typically not an issue. But as uranium breaks down, one of its byproducts is the radon gas. When that radon gas kind of comes out of the out of the ground, I guess I should say it percolates up through the ground from there, from the uranium. When it comes percolating up through, what is happening is it'll actually be drawn into the house. Now, your house, if you can imagine, is kind of like a big chimney. Typically, it's either warmer or cooler inside, and there's always this negative pressure that's going to draw the radon gas in. And as it's drawing it in, it is basically accumulating inside the house. It can't escape as quickly as if it were outside, obviously. So it gets caught up in your basement and hangs out there. So radon will accumulate, and radon gas itself is actually harmless, but it has an extremely short half-life. And when that happens, after about 3.5 hours of it being in your basement, it'll actually start breaking down. When it breaks down is when it becomes a radioactive material, and it releases the alpha, the beta, and the gamma. And what happens is the beta and the gamma is not so much of the concern. The alpha particle is the actual concern here. So if you're breathing in that radon gas, and when you breathe it in, if that breaks down with inside of your lungs, that alpha particle that comes out of it can actually damage lung cells, in turn cause improper healing and scarring, and eventually lead to possibly lung cancer. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. It's odorless, tasteless. It has no smell or anything like that. It'll accumulate, so it's not heavy, it's not light, it's kind of just, it'll accumulate in the house. And, in your basement, say you test, if you test on the left side or the right side, or you test down low or you test up high, you're going to have all about the same levels if everything is sitting still. And, in turn, it can actually then from there work its way up through the house and get into the, the living space, if maybe the basement isn't a total living space. And right up through the first floor, second floor, and so on and so forth, until it eventually escapes out or breaks down.
Okay. So we mentioned levels, the levels of radon. How is that? What are those levels? What are the concerns?
Sure. So the radon levels, the action level is 4.0, and it's the used to be the EPA action level. Now it's the NEHA NRPP action level, and that is so that's 4 picocuries per liter. So they consider anything 4 or less safe to be with, and then 4 or above, so that 4 is the magic point. Usually if it's 4, we're going to suggest mitigation. If it's under 4, depending on where under 4, you're typically fairly safe, but this is an average, and 95% of the testing being done is an average test. So that's an average over a certain amount of days. And what we want to look at is that average, how many times did it peak above 4? How many times, did it stay down below 4 for how many hours that ran? If you're getting peaks above 4, you might still be averaging, 2.5 or 3 picocuries. So we want to make sure that not only is the average below 4, but we want to make sure that the peaks are staying below 4 as well. And that way we know we're safe. The safest level for radon is going to be your lowest level that we can get it to.
Okay, so now you do a period of time. So you and I have talked in the past, and you talk about different things that could affect readings throughout the course of a day, season, what have you. Why is that?
So weather, so radon, okay, it's very, I guess it's influenced by pressure changes. So we'll start with the weather, for instance. If it's windy out, that can actually elevate levels. If say your house is on a hillside and the wind's blowing at that hillside, it can actually create almost a positive pressure underground, which will actually force the radon gas into the house. Rain will also do something similar, where it actually, once the ground gets saturated, it could actually force the radon, kind of around and up through the foundation of the house as well. Houses, like I said before, if you can imagine a house like a big chimney, they always have some sort of negative pressure on them. Summertime, it's going to be less. Wintertime, it's going to be a little bit more, just because wintertime, your heat's on, it's cold outside, so all that heat rises, and it's going to try to escape through kitchen vents, bathroom vents, windows, doors, roof vents, whatever, in turn creating this what's called a stack effect. And that stack effect will actually draw the radon gas in. So you'll get that during the summer, but not quite as much, just because things are a little bit more neutral with it being warm outside and at a steady temperature on the inside. So that with all that said, during the wintertime, your levels are going to be higher. Without a radon system in place, they'll be higher than they are during the summertime. They will drop down a little bit lower, and then once wintertime comes, they actually will elevate slightly once everything is closed up and a little bit tighter, and that stack effect becomes more, I guess, prominent at that point.
Gotcha. Okay. So now it's a home buyer, or let's say someone actually that's a homeowner currently is concerned about it. So they come in and their levels are 5, 6, whatever. So now you determine it needs to be mitigated. How do you do that?
So what we're going to do is we're going to come into the house. We always try to make a site visit so we can see what type of system is going to be necessary for this. And what we're looking for is the type of basement, whether it's a concrete with a block foundation or concrete with a poured wall, old stone foundation with concrete, or old stone with dirt floors, crawl spaces, things like that. We're going to look at that. So what we end up doing is what's called a subslab depressurization, or sometimes it's a submembrane depressurization. Our goal is we're going to bring in a pipe into the house. We always go for a side where it's not going to be as noticeable or in anybody's way. But our goal is to actually create a vacuum down underneath the concrete, capturing the radon and drawing it out at our point before it has a chance to actually enter up into the living space of the house. So whether we're doing that by drilling or coring through the concrete floor, to create that vacuum, or we're maybe got a dirt floor basement and we have to lay down a membrane over the whole entire floor, running suction points underneath that, creating that vacuum underneath the membrane, and doing the same thing as we would underneath the concrete, drawing it out before it has a chance to come up into the living space or the breathing area. And
Okay.
then what we do from there is we're going to get it up. We vent it outside. we do everything again per the NEHA and the NRPP standards. We will have the fan will be located outside. There's going to be a disconnect for it, for the fan itself. It doesn't ever get turned off unless it has to. And then our pipe from the fan will actually run up the side of the house and vent above the eave of the roof. So we'll make sure that we're clear of any windows, doors, vents, and we're not going to recycle this back in on a different floor from where we're pulling it from. Making sure that everything meets those standards is key, because it kind of puts people at ease that way.
Now, how often should people, let's say, have this? So basically, how safe is it for how long?
So a radon system, the radon system really could be keep the house safe for a very long time. Our fans are known to run anywhere from 10 to 20 years without ever having a problem. And we use a variety of different sizes, depending on the situation or the type of system that we're going to have to install. So they'll range from, like I said, a 10 to a 20-year period without ever having problems. There's no maintenance on our systems. There is a gauge in the basement that you'll occasionally, you'll go down, you'll look at that to make sure the system is running properly. And other than that, I mean, they're great. They will, they're worry-free and problem-free systems where you're not going to have to constantly monitor it and worry about it.
Excellent. Well, Scott, thank you. I appreciate it. You've answered a lot of questions and probably created some for some people too. You really want to reach out to Scott. His company is Certified Radon Systems, and he can be contacted through his website at certifiedradonny.com, or you can visit the Phillips Real Estate Team.com, go to our resource section under preferred vendors, and Certified Radon Systems is there as well. Plus, if you got any questions, maybe for future reference, leave them in the comment field on Facebook, and we'll monitor that as well. Scott, thanks. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Good, man.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Take care. Appreciate everything.
All right. Take care.
Yep. Bye.